Hey guys, Crixley here again with GirlGamer.com and a Fangirl's Guide, and we are here at Comic-Con 2009, and I'm very honored to be sitting here today with the producer and director of Alien Trespass, which is a very, very, I don't want to call it cute, it's very funny. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. R.W. Goodwin, and how would you like me to call you R.W., or what would you prefer to be called?
I prefer to be called Bob.
Bob. I like him already. So, looking at the poster itself, I mean, what I like about your film is that some movie posters don't tell you what the movie's about. And right away, when you see this poster, you know that it has this, like, old school, like, 30s, 40s, take your gal to the theater and watch the Blob double feature, like the Blob and War of the Worlds. Was, not so much concentrating on the poster itself, but I mean, the poster does say a lot about your film. I mean, was that, an important aspect of, not just the film itself, but once the film was in the can, but making sure that people knew what they were getting into?
Yeah, well, actually, my partner Jim Swift was the one who came up with this idea because he went to a lot of these movies when he was a kid in the 50s, and he loved the classic 50s sci-fi movies, but he just said the only problem was there aren't enough of them, and he wanted to make one more, right? So we decided to make this, and almost from the beginning, we decided we'd come up with this story that it was a film that was made in the 50s but never released, and we just recently found it buried in a construction site in Hollywood. We figured that would be a fun way to go with it. So all of the posters and everything else, of course, if you look at the DVD, it's a whole different thing because the Image wanted to make sure that people knew there was actually a new movie, right, and not something that's been around for 50 years. But we were very, very particular about trying to keep it exactly like they made them in the 50s, because if you look at the old 50s movies now, even though when they made them they were really serious and they were earnest about it and everything, making them really scary and all that, 50 years go by and styles have changed so much that now you look at those movies and they're just really funny, but they're inadvertently funny. They didn't mean to be funny when they made them. So we made a movie that's intentionally inadvertently funny, basically.
Yeah, and it's funny. It is funny because when I looked at the poster, I don't know why it popped in my head, but I thought, oh my gosh, this is the kind of movie I would see on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and those are the kind of movies that I love. And then going back to something like Amazon Women on the Moon, where they had that movie interstitially playing between the real stuff. And yeah, when I looked at the poster, I just loved how it was real. Yeah, it was real gritty, and it's like it came from outer space. And then the DVD, of course, the DVD is a lot more cleaned up. And how do you think that? I guess, because I can't say kids of my generation because I'm not a kid, but the 20 set, the most of the demographic that comes to Comic-Con, how have they received this film?
It's been amazing, actually. We were really surprised. I mean, we knew we'd get some of the older folks who were familiar with these movies when they were young or whatever, but some of our biggest fans are people in their late teens and 20s because either they know the genre or they've seen enough on Nick at Night or whatever to know what it's about, and they just get a hoot out of it. They kind of get it. As a matter of fact, some of the gags that we use, like there was a movie called Earth versus the Flying Saucers, and it was a very cheesy kind of movie. Really, it had great flying saucers, but when the flying saucers are attacking this Air Force base where all the heroes are hiding, and the Air Force base is blowing up all around them, the heroes are running away and running, and you can see everything burning behind them, and you can see that they're on a treadmill, and you can see that they're out of sync with the background. It's not quite moving at the right speed. So I have a scene in here where Eric, he plays a character named Ted, who is an astronomer whose body is taken over by an alien named Earp. So we call that character Terp, right? And Terp is walking along the desert, and Tammy, the waitress, pulls up alongside in her truck, and you can see as Eric's walking, he's on a treadmill, and then he stops, but the background keeps going for a little while, all that. Well, the 20-year-olds are the ones that seem to get the biggest kick out of that, they see it better than anybody else. So there's a bunch of stuff like that. We're actually quite happy. It's funny, kids like it. I'm talking about tweeners. And we just had a gentleman come up to Eric and I. We were signing autographs, and he had his young son with him, and he said he loved the movie because he could take his family to see it.
And that's something that you don't really see a whole lot these days when it comes to horror movies or alien-inspired movies. Is great, but can I take my 5-year-old? Probably not. And with a movie like this too, where it's everything is tongue-in-cheek and it's meant to be funny, but the actors are supposed to take it seriously, was there a time where it was, the actors were like, had to be encouraged a little bit more? Because you know how we actors are. Everything has to be very serious and get it all right in one take. And so doing a movie like Alien Trespass, where it's not supposed to be perfect in one take, was there a lot of pressure? Did they feel like they needed to be like, kind of like, it's okay, you can mess up, this is what this film is for?
I think so. I think what I tried to do, I had those three classic films, the original War of the Worlds, the original The Day the Earth Stood Still, and then a movie called It Came from Outer Space. And those were all really top classic 50s, where the actors were really good actors doing a really good job, but in the style of the 50s. So I had our cast watch those movies, so they really understood the kind of acting style we were talking about. And by the time we actually got to work, all of them, even the ones who played the teenagers, everybody was totally in on the game, and I just had to kind of guide them a little here and sort of sand it off a little bit there and everything else. But we had so much fun doing it, and then I think part of what helped a lot was we just had a great atmosphere on the set. Everybody just... into a man, they said it was the most fun they've ever had making a movie. So I think that kind of helps keep everybody in a spirit to do their best work,
Well, Bob, thank you so much for taking the time out to see me today, and I hope to see more of these films come from you. I will be first in line. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it, guys.